Have you ever gotten the sense that time is not on your side? That getting ready for what's next is more important than ever? Let's talk about it. Before we get into the video, I want to thank you, the community, for doing the survey that I asked you to do last weekend. Got a lot of feedback, and it really helps me to understand what's important, how to shape the content to what's important to you as a community. And myself, my team, we're going to be working over the next several months, working a lot of overtime over the next 3 months to create videos to address a lot of these concerns. One of the things I've always wanted to do is create a series at the beginning of the year to kind of lay out a roadmap to help my community. And again, based on the feedback, I'll be doing a lot of work to build these videos and set them up. So again, thank you for that. So the point of this particular video and the question and the concern that always comes up is time. And, there's always a sense of impending doom. And obviously that's something that typically kind of hangs over our community, that something is on the horizon, that something is problematic that is coming. And it's, clearly an issue that many of us are concerned about, whatever that may be. And I purposely this week did a series of videos on preparing for winter. Fall, at the time of the recording this video, was just a few days ago. And like Christmas, like your kids' birthdays, these events, they come every year. And as a parent, it always catches me off guard around Christmas or around my child's birthday that I'm like, oh, shoot, I forgot to get ready. I forgot a present. Thank God for my wife. She always, helps prepare for these events. But all that to say, it's in our nature, I think, a lot of times to overlook or to push off what's in the future and to not prioritize it today. There's individuals, obviously, like farmers, that they understand seasons extremely well. They live by seasons. There's a season to sow. There's a season to harvest, and they have to live by these seasons. And again, I purposely did the videos for the winter issues this week because, again, while it may be several months out, my hope is, and my encouragement is, by releasing these videos, it will prepare you. And it's always best to prepare while you can for what is down the road, because it's going to happen. It's inevitable. Winter's going to come. We're going to have a cold season. There's going to be issues with the power grid. It becomes one of those things that's kind of a seasonal thing. And hey, it may be a bad winter. It may be an awesome winter. It may not be that big, things may not get too cold after all. Again, I did a video just a few days ago talking about this. And based on what I'm seeing in the research that I'm doing, again, from the scientific community, meteorologists, climatologists, there's a lot of signs that they see converging at once that show this season, compared to on average other seasons, that there's a lot of signs that are adding up to be problematic. And I'm saying all that, and again, the reason I wanted to do these videos this week, and this video in particular, is the key is this, is to look a little ahead and prepare. And it's easy to say, well, I'll prepare then. I'll prepare when that time comes. And again, with the issues that we're having with our just-in-time delivery system, the supply chain, my encouragement to you is to get what you can while you can to prepare. And if nothing happens, not a big deal. And I'll talk about that here a little more in a moment. But the main point, sorry, I go off on tangents a lot of times. The main point of this video is to look at the obvious and to prepare. Again, it's easy to focus on things that are out of our control. And I talked about this last week, things that are these big fears that we have, but always focus on what you can address now. And one of the things I've learned over the years of having a YouTube channel is that prepping, it's really a big tent. There's a lot of people that have way different views than maybe my own concerns, and everybody's got their own individual concern. And that's not to say one's right, one's wrong. Again, I think on a long enough timeline, our concerns will probably converge at one point, and it may end up looking a lot different than we all thought. But my concerns, it may not be your concerns, and vice versa. And I get a lot of blowback sometimes when I bring up things that people are like, hey, that's not really a big issue because here's my issue and here's my concern. And, again, it works both ways. I get that. But I think we both can agree on one thing, is that it's important that we prepare for whatever may be coming next. And look, I fight with anxiety just as much as anybody else does in this community, that something is pressing, something is urgent. And I hate to just throw that phrase out there because it sounds so vague And it's kind of a, just hedge your bets and just say, well, something big is coming, and therefore anything you say, I get that. But again, where we are at this time, in this moment in our nation's history, in the world for that matter, it's a very transitional and pivotal time. And there is a sense of uncertainty. And it causes me and it forces me to think from a long-term perspective. I'm by no means some great investor, but I dabble enough and I understand enough and studied enough to understand the foundations and the principles of investments. And it's worked out well for me by implementing some certain principles. And there's typically kind of two mindsets. There's an investment perspective and there's a trading perspective. Traders usually want to get in and out. They want to make a buck and move on to the next deal. Investors, on the other hand, they tend to think long-term. They look to not just try to flip something quick, but they want to take a long-term perspective. And that's personally my perspective when I approach investing. And you may ask, where am I going with this? And we'll talk about this. One of the principles I've learned is the best time to invest is a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Time is usually on your side when it comes to investment. But if you didn't start then, the second best time is today. If you can start today, and a year from now, you'll be thankful you did today. And again, timing, one of the things I've learned is it's not about timing the market, but it's time in the market. And I think that same principle applies to prepping. It's mapping out a plan, saying this is going to be my strategy and sticking to it. And it's easy to start chasing these, things that pop up. Oh, there's a volcano over here. I'm going to go off on this tangent. Or some event happens and it's pulling me off of the plan that I originally defined. And again, it's easy to get frantic and to begin to chase your tail. And I've seen this time and time again for individuals within this community that have gone the distance and those that did not. Those that ended up getting caught up in the moment and the situation that may pop up in front of me, it eventually causes burnout. And what I always try to do every year is I try to sit down and lay a 12-month plan out of what I want to prepare. What am I going to focus on? And if you're new to this, which again, I know a lot of people are coming in due to certain events that are playing out in our world, whether you're new or not, the foundations are typically always the same. And there's a lot of different directions and areas that you can grow, but food, water, medical, and security, if you can get those as a starting point, getting a couple of weeks of food. I've done videos on building a 2-week food supply, getting a few weeks of water built, getting some basic first aid kits, figuring out a security plan. And again, I'm saying all this not to rehash old points, but based on the survey that was recently done, again, I see a lot of concerns that people have, and there's that sense of what can we do now? What are practical? And that's where I would advise people to start. And again, I'll be doing some videos here pretty soon going into a lot more detail, again, based on the feedback. But the point is this, look, I get nervous. There's things that concern me that I have to pull back and say, okay, remember, stick to the plan. We laid out a plan. We're going to do certain things, and I've got work to do ahead of me. But if I follow the plan and work the plan, I think I'll be in a good position. And we all know that, well, I hate to say we all know, but as a child, I remember learning about the parable of the ant and the grasshopper. And there's different variations of it, but essentially the story kind of goes along of the grasshopper, during the summertime when it's time to prepare, he's out there partying and having a good time, enjoying leisure life, the life of leisure rather. The ants, they're the ones that are preparing for the winter. When the winter comes and the ants, they've got all their supplies in a row, all their ducks in a row rather, they're good. That's where in the story you see the grasshopper, he comes, he begs, to the ants, hey, could you, help me? I'm starving, this and that, it's cold out. And the parable basically, it's a moral lesson about the virtues of hard work and planning for the future. And again, in our society, we've become so used to this kind of, it's a microwave generation, I'll admit. We want things quickly. We get bored really quickly and we get distracted. And it's something I have to fight every day to realize I've got to stay on track. And again, that is a reason why I brought these videos up this week. Typically, I usually try to do videos based on what's kind of more or less what I see the community concerned about at the moment, because I know that's what's important. But again, I intentionally put these videos out this week to help give you, my hope is to help give you some motivation to prepare for this particular winter that's coming up. And again, if you're not sure where to start for preparing for winter, the video that I laid out yesterday, kind of the summary of the video, hey, get a tent, get some sleeping bags, propane stove, maybe a Mr. Heater, some wood. If you can't get a bunch of wood stored up, get some Duraflame logs, get some canned food, some water stored. and maybe a small, where I already mentioned propane stove. And you may say, well, that's a lot of money. And I get it. Everybody's on a different budget, but you've got several months. If you can lay those out on a timeline and say, okay, this week I've got this amount of money, I'm going to get this. And in doing so, again, work the plan, build a plan and go with it. And again, I'm not trying to minimize people's financial constraints, but these items, I don't think they're terribly expensive. You can find these, especially get creative. Look at yard sales, look at secondhand stores. You would be surprised what you find. I always love going to garage sales just because, there's different supplies I always love to look for, whether it's tools or camping gear. To me, those are valuable. Those are things I typically find. And hey, if nothing happens, if this winter turns out to be just a normal winter, power doesn't go out, no issues, great. You got some camping gear, get out and enjoy nature, right? And let me, get close to finish by saying this. Time may not always be on your side, but you can look ahead and prepare. It's easy to get caught up in being anxious about what's coming, but seasons, they come and go, and prepare for them. Winter is one season we know is coming. Like I talked about at the beginning of the video, Christmas comes every year, and somehow I'm always surprised. Oh, like, shoot, I forget to get toys or whatever, and I'm always, procrastinating to the last minute. Don't be that person, right? Being ready, it reduces anxiety. And, I've shared my views in the past why I personally prepare. And I try my hardest to base my reasons on, certain scientific principles that I'm observing, certain things that I see that as I study, and I, again, look at the scientific community, things that they see coming out in the next several years. Personally, those are some of the things that are important to me, but again, it might be different for you. And I'll admit, my preparedness timeline might be a little longer than many in this community. Some are motivated by certain political events that are playing out, and again, I try not to be caught up in that, because I remember years ago when a certain politician in 2008 was elected as president. I knew a lot of preppers that freaked out and ran up debt. And again, nothing major happened in the sense of, their life wasn't severely altered. But I say all that because, again, I try not to chase the events in front of me. I try to look ahead, think long term, and prepare accordingly. And, I hate to even mention this, but there's a website. If you go to Reddit, I personally enjoy Reddit. There's a lot of different subreddits, and there's one called Collapse. And while I would not encourage people to spend a lot of time on that, to be careful, just be careful because it can be a drain on mental health. But that subreddit, it definitely, I find a lot of interesting information because it lays out things that are playing out in real time in our nation. I'll admit some of it would be from a liberal perspective if you look at it from a political perspective. Some of you may not like it. Again, I try to look at all the information in front of me and base my own decisions based on what I study. But a few months ago, I decided to go full-time with this channel because I do feel like there is a pressing responsibility to prepare. And I say pressing responsibility, I feel like the things I've learned over the years, I do feel a bit of a burden to try to share that and teach the best I can. I think this year, this time, this moment in our history, if there's ever to be a time capsule in which we look back and we look at pivotal times in our moment or world's history, I think this time that we're living through will definitely be one of those moments where there will be a realization that we were at a tipping point. And for many people, there's like many of us going through right now, the struggle of trying to understand how to prepare ourselves best, what to do next. And again, I've decided to go, and I brought up the reason, I'm going full-time with this channel, and I did go full-time several months ago, is because I do feel there's a pressing need to prepare. And time may not always be on our side. And I've decided over the next several months to take even a bit of a deeper dive, to spend time to create content to help this community. Is time on our side? Again, it depends on your views, and I can't tell you whether you're right or wrong, but map out a timeline for you, for what works for your household, what you can realistically accomplish, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It'd be so easy to get caught up and say, hey, I've got to do X, Y, and Z, but I don't have the budget, I don't have the time. Just be realistic. Stick with what you can do and work a plan. Find a plan, build a plan, and work it. What's the best time to start preparing? A year ago. What's the second best time to prepare? Now. hopefully this will at least give you some, what should I say, some words of encouragement. Again, I always try to build the videos and the content to produce realistic information that can help you on a timeline. It's easy, on a timeline that can be accomplished. Again, it would be so easy to get caught up in the anxiety of everything that's happening. But again, what worked for me is I laid out a timeline. I decided I'm going to stick to this. And here I am a year later after I made decisions a year ago, and I'm so glad that I followed it. If you have any feedback, any thoughts, please post that in the comments section below. And as always, stay safe out there.